Okay, so with UFC 313 next Saturday, and with Dan Hooker pulling out of his fight in the co-main event against Justin Gaethje, I wanted to talk about this main card, about the card in general. Just in a week in advance before fight week, and all the embedded videos start coming out and the interviews start coming out. So I want to get this out of the way, so when next week comes, I can talk about those interviews and those embedded videos. So the fight to open up the main card is going to be Bobby Green against Mauricio Ruffy. I'm not going to call him King. That's kind of cringy. He should just kept it as his nickname. But Bobby is going to be going against Mauricio Ruffy, and I love Bobby. I had him to win against Patty. He lost. He went for a takedown. Why? But um, I love Bobby because he fights with his hands down, and I hate him because he fights with. I hate him because he fights with his hands down. So to do this, to do that in this fight against this type of opponent, it is going to be very dangerous. But as always, we all know how Bobby's going to come. No homo. We all know how he's going to come into this fight. He's going to be coming into this fight with his hands down, as he always does. And against Mauricio Ruffy, it's going to be dangerous, but he's done it time and time again. It's just who he is. And sometimes he wins, sometimes he loses. But Mauricio Ruffy is a different type of opponent. Might be one of the most dangerous opponents, one of the most dangerous strikers Bobby has faced. And Bobby has faced Poirier and Fiziev and Jalen. Um, I think he's lost all three of those, but he only got put out one out of those three. So he might get put out again. He might be put out. He might be put out again against Mauricio Ruffy. Sadly, I want Bobby to win, but Mauricio Ruffy's different. He's one of the fighting nerds. They're all on the win streak right now. They are yet to lose in the UFC. So I'm riding that train. I'm riding that bandwagon of the fighting nerds. So I want Bobby to win, but realistically, who I think is gonna win is gonna be Ruffy. So let's move on to the next. Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I've only seen Ignacio fight once, which was on the Sphere card. I believe, if I remember correctly, that was the fight where he was just landing a right hand after right hand straight down the middle, landing on his opponent, and eventually one of those right hands landed where it needed to land and hurt him, wobbled him, and then he put him out. And then Jalen Turner's last few fights have been iffy. Jalen Turner's last fight was Hinata Moicano, which he lost via ground and pound. I believe there was like one or two shots in that fight on when he was on the ground, when he was on his back against Moicano. But I don't know. Jalen kind of broke in that fight. But I don't think he has to worry about being taken down in this fight against Ignacio. I haven't seen Ignacio fight much, but I don't think he's a grappling wrestler type opponent. So I might favor Jalen. Jalen does good against other strikers, except when he lost against Dan Hooker and a few other people. But Jalen might be able to use his experience, rely on his experience to win this one. Ignacio might be too early for him to come up the rankings like that. I think he's only had like two fights in the UFC. I might be wrong, or I hope I'm not wrong, but it might be too early for him. Jalen's very good on the feet. Ignacio, excuse me, might be one dimensional. Jalen has kicks, he has hands, has a bit of a submission game, a little. Ignacio, I don't know, I'm not too sure what he has, but I'm gonna pick Jalen in this one. I think he'll be able to beat Ignacio, and well, we see how it goes next week. Now, the fight after that, Justin Gaethje versus whoever's gonna step up. It's not gonna be Dan Hooker no more. That is a fight that I'm upset that we lost. That would have been a banger of a co-main. It would have been a dangerous co-main fight. Somebody was gonna be bloody. Somebody was going to get KO'd. Who knows what would have happened in this fight? I had Dan Hooker winning this one. I think Justin Gaethje is only number 3 in the lightweight rankings because of inactivity. Fights like once a year, or twice, barely fights. But when he does fight, he's not fighting someone down the rankings. He's fighting someone in the top 5, top 6, which is what's keeping him high in the rankings. But I think if he were to constantly face opponents lower in the rankings, I think he'd not be in the top 5 anymore. But I did have Dan Hooker winning this one originally. Dan's on a two-fight win streak, if I remember correctly, and Justin Gaethje's like win lose one type person. I think Dan would have been able to just outstrike Gaethje out on the feet and probably put him out maybe in the later rounds, round two, round three, round four. I think that's what would have happened. I think Justin going against Max Holloway, who's a featherweight and just getting he wasn't getting hurt by him badly, but Max Holloway was able to put him out eventually in the fifth round with a clean right hand on the chin after a very long fight. But I think Justin Gaethje taking Max Holloway's power, and then the fight after that taking Dan Hooker's power, I think it would have been complete night and day. It would have been a wake up call, and Dan Hooker probably would have put him out of there. I think so. That's not the fight we're getting. Hinata Moicano has called out Justin Gaethje, and Rafael Fiziev has called out Justin Gaethje. I would like to see the Rafael Fiziev fight. It would be the rematch, and when they fought for the first time, in my opinion, I thought Fiziev got robbed. I think he won the first two rounds and very clearly lost the third one, but they gave Gaethje the second and the third round, and they gave him the win. I think he lost that one. It was a very close fight. You could give it to Gaethje. It wasn't like a very big robbery, but I think that fight could have gone either way. I think it should have leaned towards Fiziev, but that's not what happened. We're yet to receive news on who's gonna step in, if somebody is gonna step in, and Justin Gaethje might have to pull out of this one. Hope he doesn't, but we get to see who's gonna step in. I hope Justin Gaethje stays on this card, fights whoever. Doesn't really matter who he fights. It's gonna be exciting no matter what. But on to the next, Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Um, Magomed, this is gonna be Alex's toughest fight to date in the UFC. Ankalaev is gonna be the only opponent Alex has faced who has a good ground game. That being said, Magomed doesn't really employ that in his fights. It's not rare. It's not rare that he goes for a takedown or ground game, but or grappling, whatever. But it is rare, but it's not rare. Like it happens, but it doesn't happen. He doesn't have to rely on it to win. Like just on his last fight, his last two fights, his fight against Johnny Walker, and then his fight against what was his name? And what was his name? Something Rakic. I can't remember his name, but Magomed hasn't had to rely on. Magomed hasn't been able, or Magomed's ground game isn't something like, oh my god, his ground game. We have to worry about it. No, it's not that. Um, the question is, will he be able to constantly put Alex on his back on the mat? And the question is, will Alex be able to stuff those takedowns round after round after round? That's even if Magomed gets that opportunity to shoot a takedown. Will Alex's offense be stunted by the fact that his opponent could shoot a takedown? I guess we'll see. I think that's what it'll come down to. If Alex Pereira goes out like he normally does and just puts out his opponent, finds the right shot, that is a big possibility in this fight. If Magomed tests his stand up against Alex, he will get put out cold. There is no question in my mind. There's no doubt in my mind. What if Magomed pulls it off? No, that's not happening. Magomed had a very close fight against Rakic, very boring fight at that. And Alex will put out Rakic and Magomed in the first round at the same time in the same cage. How do I see this fight going? I think Alex is gonna be able to win this one. I don't really think he'll fear Magomed's ability to take him down highly. And Alex has been training grappling ever since he came into the UFC, and a little bit before that. So, and training with Glover Teixeira, I think it always has been an advantage for Alex to be training with Glover. So after all this time training grappling, this is the perfect time for him to show his skills of grappling, show his takedown defense, and maybe some of his grappling offense with against Magomed. So I do think he'll be able to win this one. By what point? I'm not sure. I don't really think this fight will go down to the judges. Um, it's gonna be a tough fight though. It's gonna be a tough fight. It's gonna be the toughest fight to date. So, excuse me. I do think Alex is gonna be able to pull this one out of the bag to win. And that's how I see this fight going. I see Alex being able to stuff Magomed's takedowns, and Magomed is gonna be forced to stay on the feet against Alex. He's gonna enjoy that. He's gonna be taking brutal leg kick after brutal leg kick. It's gonna be hurt. He's gonna have to switch stances if it comes down to it, or shoot, and if he shoots when he doesn't want to shoot, he might get caught with something. Um, Alex hasn't done a flying knee since his very first fight in the UFC. Maybe he'll pull it out again against this type of opponent. Who knows? But it'll probably be left hook KO from Alex or a TKO from Alex. Maybe in the later rounds, maybe Magomed will test it out on the first two. By that point, Alex is going to be comfortable on the feet, and he might be able to stuff a few takedowns on the feet in those first two. Wow, my camera ran out of space before I can even finish the video. That's crazy. Anyways, back to it. Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Don't really remember where I was, but I think Alex is gonna be able to win this one. I think his stand up is gonna be too much for Magomed. I don't really think he's gonna be fearing a takedown, which is gonna halt his offense on the feet. I think he'll. I mean, he's not gonna be able. He's not gonna walk him down, but he's gonna get comfortable on the feet. He's going to be landing his shots, landing his low kicks, landing his body kicks. Could have landed a leg kick. He doesn't really go for body kicks. What am I saying? But he does go for a body jab. Does have a right hand, left hook, low kick. And Magomed, his stand up is mid at best. So his ground game isn't something that should be like worried. Nah, I don't want to say worried about too much, but his ground game isn't something that's like it's not he's not Makhachev. Going against Makhachev, that's the only thing you're gonna worry about is the ground game, the wrestling, the grappling. So I don't think Ankalaev is that type of opponent where you have to worry about his ground game like you would against Makhachev or a Marab. So if Alex Pereira does have his offense get halted by Magomed's takedown threat, that might be his demise. But he's been able to stuff takedowns in the UFC since he got in the UFC. So I think once he realizes that he will be able to stuff Magomed's takedown attempts, I think that's when his offense is gonna start opening up. That's when he'll get comfortable on the feet, and that's when he'll start landing devastating shot after devastating shot. So I do have Alex Pereira winning this one by KO, left hook, or TKO. So or like head kick like he did against Yuri. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And I don't really think Magomed is gonna win this one. I think it's gonna be a good fight. Probably could be a could be a close few rounds, but then just Alex Pereira just lands that one shot that he needs to land in the later few rounds, and it'll be all she wrote. The night will end, and it'll be a good night. So I got Alex to win this one. That's my review of this main card, and I guess we'll see who wins, who loses. Time will tell. Thanks for watching.